Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Starting Grid podcast. Micah, Barry, and Chad over here as your hosts. We're going to be talking about some silly season stuff that's going on, and kind of the beginning of this um, time of the year in Formula One, where we call silly season, where crazy things go on. We're going to talk about the Austrian Grand Prix. We're going to talk to the British Grand Prix. We're going to talk about some crazy news going on in particular teams, particular drivers, and everything that Formula One in the last month has to offer. How you guys all doing tonight? Are you guys ready for, this incredible time that we're having?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's good. Another race weekend ahead of us. I love these back-to-backs. Always good. But yeah, what a week in the Formula One world and the Formula One Twitterverse and blogosphere and news cycle is going
It's
crazy. So yeah,
crazy.
we got a lot to catch up on. How you doing, Chad?
I'm doing good, man. I will never say no to back-to-back weekends of Formula One. I don't care who
Mhm.
you are, what you try to tell me. If it's too busy for me, it's amazing. So, um, yeah, and some good races, some good changing. Of course, silly season starting and some changes, and cars are getting better. And man, it's been a fun couple weekends for sure.
Yeah, absolutely it has. Well, I think there's some really big news that just came out, but I think we should wait to get to that in just a minute.
Oh,
I
come
think
on,
And
Barry.
go back in time a little bit. So the last
I
time we talked was the Austrian Grand Prix pre-race podcast.
right.
And we didn't talk about because there was that sprint and then there
Hmm.
was that race that happened, which, Max was going to win. We knew he was going to win. But that
Right.
was the weekend with all of the track limits
Track limits, and
and
we
all
talked
of
about
the
that.
post-race penalties.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Oh my
That was,
goodness.
yeah. I mean, the track limits, we've talked about this before. Like, I mean,
Right,
we
right.
talked in that last podcast about the track limits and um, you know, just the varying opinions on that.
Hmm.
But we've also talked about before a few episodes ago was penalties that come after the race has
Hmm.
concluded
Hmm.
and how that can mess things up and how anticlimactic that is. And
Hmm.
so while I get it, I mean there were so many track limit violations. That whole, the FIA
Right.
was, it took them that long just to record everything and then start handing down all of those penalties. But what an absolute mess. I just think it was just absolute
Is
mess.
I didn't really I thought the drama was crazy, but I think after, a few weeks removed from that, it really kind of felt like the race was like it ended, but then there was like a second ending, and you kind of anticlimactic in that way. Um, those that turn nine, turn 10, like they need to do something about it. And I've heard that they are actually working on it because they have to work with MotoGP because they actually race there as well. FIA is working on putting gravel traps there to make sure that drivers don't, that I heard one a meme that was like, just put lava.
I I
And now
saw that as
nobody will
well. I saw that too.
and
Oh
nobody
man.
nobody will go around those corners.
Well, it's somebody else. Like I think the rocks, like I mean, it makes sense to some sense, some in some
Right,
senses. But we got to remember that a lot of these tracks are multi-use, right? It's not just
Right.
Formula One.
right,
There's
right.
mainly it's bikes. It's uh,
MotoGP.
MotoGP, and I
Yeah.
guess they just can't. It's too dangerous for them, and
Hmm.
they end up
Hmm.
getting a lot more hurt. So
Hmm.
I think a lot of these tracks, if they're getting similar money or maybe even more money from MotoGP, they're not just going
Right,
to like clean sweep it just for F1 for one
right.
race weekend.
Right. And I just always come back to, if it's the track limit, don't
Hmm.
violate it. Like,
Golly,
there's
yeah,
just
seriously.
there's that, it's
Yeah,
racing.
yeah.
Uh
It's tennis. You have a line, right? Football,
right.
you have the line,
Right.
Right.
right? I mean, even jujitsu, you have
Right.
the ring. I mean, like any
Right.
sport, you're out of it. You're out of it. You're in it. You're
Right.
in it. Like if
But
somebody is,
with those sports, you know that you're out of it moments after those happen.
oh sure,
With this,
Sure.
that was a lot of the drivers, like they one a lot of the critiques from the drivers is they said like, hey, like I'll make sure I'm not in track limits, but like you need to let me know because they were letting people know 10 to 15 laps after they'd already gone through. And I
Right.
understand, yes, there were so many people going on track limits, but like you're talking about one of the most advanced racing series in the world, one of the most
Sure.
advanced technological advanced sports in the world. Like, why isn't that technology still immediate? Because drivers that had to like
Yeah.
it was after the fact, even for the drivers, not just for the fans. And
Right.
they didn't like that either because they couldn't make proper
No.
adjustments.
No, it's a balance. I do know that some of the drivers were even frustrated with their teams and their
Hmm.
engineers because they weren't getting regular updates. So like, they were finding out
Right.
after their second or third violation, hey, you've
Right.
been exceeding track limits. It's like, hey, let me know earlier on because there's
Yeah.
so much going on in that car.
Right.
And so I get that it's a challenge, but that's part of the challenge. It's part of racing. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was a great race. Of course, Max
Right.
won, and
Right.
it was yeah, it was a fun race.
It
The
mixed up
track,
the grid a little, like the bottom seven, it mixed them up a little bit. So like that was really interesting to see. I don't think I would have enjoyed if there was like a podium change. Like that would have, I mean, I always feel like I remember back on what Sebastian Vettel, right? When he got kicked out of the podium post race, right? And somebody else, you then take someone else's opportunity to celebrate a podium. Having a podium after the fact and not that, I mean, come
right?
on, without that celebration. And so I think that for me is why I was like that. It was just a big bummer to like
Yeah,
watch the race after the fact, 6 hours later, and you're like,
right.
did I even watch? Was it even worth watching the actual race if it's just going to get changed? You know what I mean? Um,
Always,
that was just
always.
yeah, that was just my observation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so the podium for Austria was Verstappen
mhm.
and then
Leclerc,
Leclerc, which is so it
Perez,
was good to see him on
mhm,
standing on
mhm,
the podium again. And then
mhm.
Sergio was showed up again. He was back and
Right,
he had
right.
a barnstorm of a race, coming
Oh
back
my
from I
goodness,
think it was 15th position to
so
finish
bad.
third. And yeah, he had a great race. So it was good to see him, even though qualifying was abysmal. The race turned out okay for him.
Goodness,
What do
and
you
that
what do you think, Mr. Red Bull fan over there?
Um, yeah, I'm I think yeah, it's just it's crazy to see. I think Max just continue to dominate. So I don't want to. You know, we talked about not blowing the new news.
No, go
But
do it.
well,
Go for it.
do it, do
so for
it.
those of you that didn't know, friend of the pod, very big fan of our podcast here. Daniel Ricciardo is back on the grid. um, Daniel, if you're listening, please give a shout out, a thumbs up, a like, whatever like you usually
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Um, but Daniel is back after a hiatus, getting taken out of the McLaren, which interestingly is doing well this year. All of a
right.
sudden, um,
All of a sudden,
but he's back taking over for
Nick
oh my goodness, why am I Nick
DeVries,
DeVries? Yes,
Nick
um,
DeVries.
in the sister team of Red Bull. So yeah, he's hopping in. So I mean, all this plays into for me of this whole Red Bull equation.
Hmm. Hmm.
I can't help but think they're
Right,
Red Bull's kind of stacking their chips here.
yep,
right.
Perez, it's not a bad driver by any stretch,
No,
but is he a Red Bull
right,
leading driver? In a number two driver, I just don't know. I don't know if he is anymore. Um, and is he losing it? So they're putting him in that second team. I think to give him a shot, see if Daniel still has it. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I'm like, what bad could it do for them? They
right,
get the publicity, they get the advertisement, they get one of the most energetic, known
right,
personalities in the Formula One paddock back on their team. Um, I mean, Drive to Survive gets him back. I mean, this is all
right.
these
All
right,
talk.
right,
right.
all of it.
Um,
Yeah,
so he hops in, gets this. But we also get to see how he does. I mean, he's done a couple tire tests. Who knows how he actually did in that tire test? It's so controlled, and all the narratives of what
Right.
tire pressures and what tire it was and what engine they're running, we just don't know. So get him in the car, give him a couple weeks, to
Yeah.
get back up to speed a little bit. And let's see, if he
Yeah.
does great, I could see Red Bull saying, "Hey, maybe we
And
swap him
next year
out."
switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
Right.
or earlier. I mean, I don't. I mean, what again? What is it? What's the worst that can happen? They could. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
They could take Perez out and put him into the sister team, right? And
You're
put
right.
Right.
They can
Ricardo
flip
back
him.
up.
Hmm.
I mean, they could do anything there. And
Right.
what is it going to do other than make Perez bummed? I mean, he's already bummed at himself. He's already upset with
Right.
his own
Right.
driving,
Right.
I'm sure, you know.
Yeah.
So I think they're making some moves that could be crazy to see what happens if Daniel does well. If he does bad, for them, it's like, is he going to do worse than Vries? Probably not. He's going
No,
to have better
they're already in
commercial
last
appeal,
place. So yeah.
right? But he's also going to have better commercial appeal. And unfortunately
Yeah.
for Daniel, I think if he doesn't do good, this is probably it
This
for
is
him.
it. Yeah. It's his
He's
swan
not going to
song for
get
sure.
another round, even in a better team. Even though this
Yeah.
is a bad car, he doesn't kill Yuki Tsunoda in the driving sense.
Right.
I think he's done so. So, um,
No,
so for
fully
me, it's
agree.
just it's crazy just to see Red Bull as always making crazy moves and not really worried about how that affects
Yeah.
their drivers or the impacts.
But they are looking at does he still have the right stuff, right? Is he going to get in the car? Is he going to perform? Is he going to get out there and put in the lap times and be competitive? I was kind of chuckling the other day. I was thinking about how Max, you remember back in the day, it was Mercedes back in the day, like 3 or 4 years ago. Mercedes, it was Mercedes and Red Bull, and I think McLaren and no, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari were the top three, and then there was the best of the rest. That was everyone
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
Well, right
Hmm.
now it's Max Verstappen, and then everyone else is the
Right.
best of the rest. Like there is no, like he's just so far out ahead,
Right.
which I think that adds to maybe Red Bull's frustration that Perez isn't putting in the performance in a similar car, and so that driver disparity. But I think, yeah, Daniel Ricciardo, love to see him back in his seat. There's a lot of debate about was it too soon for Nick de Vries? Did they not give him enough of a chance? But you signed on with that team knowing that they're brutal. Like it's not the first, second, or even fourth time that they've done this. It's just kind of how they roll, which is kind of cool to see. Alex Albon, who is one of the drivers that got the sack early on, is now performing so well with Williams, and
Hmm.
they're having a great season. So yeah, I'm with you, Chad. I think they're early on, and like the title of this podcast, and like Micah mentioned earlier, silly season has arrived.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we've kicked it off with a bang because I think there's few names in Formula One that are as renowned as and recognized as Daniel Ricciardo, especially because of Drive to Survive. I think it would be. Here's my lofty prediction is that next year he'll be back in a Red Bull, and we'll have another season of Drive to Survive featuring Ricardo as a Red Bull driver, which was the initial season.
Dude, I will die. I will pee my pants if he gets back into a Red Bull. Like, I mean, that would be just for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I would
that.
I
Yeah,
would
I
I
love
would
the guy.
pay the money to go see a race in person just to see Ricardo
Oh my goodness.
driving a Red Bull.
Um,
Mike is like, he's
I don't
done.
know.
He's like,
I don't
this is
know. I think all of this is so crazy. But what we're seeing is it's not just power anymore. It's aerodynamics. Aerodynamics is now king.
Yeah,
You have
true.
Mercedes making an engine, and then McLaren, who has the same engine, and Aston, who has the same engine, outperforming them. So like
Right.
it's not just engines anymore, which
Right.
used to be most important, right? You get the engine that's the most reliable, that's the best, right? And and it's just not the case. So
Right.
back to the previous with Red Bull, it's so like this is why it's so called silly season is because it's so unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. I've seen so many rumors. I've seen so many different people like claiming this and claiming that, and rumors that Red Bull is actually talking to Norris and Leclerc for the 2025 and 2026 seasons when Checo's contract is up, and maybe even paying to break their contracts so that they can come and
Right.
be a beat driver to Verstappen, I see that as a very reasonable, like crazy, but like I want to see Norris in a Red Bull. I want to see Leclerc in a Red Bull. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. Do
Yeah.
I think Ricardo is going to come back and be dominant? No. I think I just don't see that in him anymore. I think he's going to do fine in an AlphaTauri. He'll do fine. The car sucks. Like, here's the thing. He's a great driver. The car's not great.
Yeah.
We already know that. So I mean, look at the last race, right? Look at Silverstone. You have Williams coming out of nowhere, and is now consistently P9, P10, P7. Like,
Right.
what in the world is going on? You
Right.
have McLaren out of nowhere.
Right.
Like, yeah, Norris did good, but then you have both McLarens
Right.
fighting for
Gosh.
podiums.
Yeah.
So I
Piastri
think,
had the race of his life this weekend. It was
right.
amazing. Yeah.
So I think it's like one of those, like, we don't know yet. I really hope Ricardo does well, but Yuki's on a roll as well. Like, Yuki's not a bad driver. So do I think Ricardo's going to be in a Red Bull next year? Like, likelihood, I think it's like a 30% likelihood, maybe a 20% likelihood that's even possible. I see it more possible that they're going to just recommit to Checo, and then an even slimmer chance, like a 10% chance that they even hire somebody else outside of there. So unless Checo keeps his role and his consistency, which is now
Right.
consistency because it's 5 races not getting out of Q1, like, I don't
Yeah.
I don't know. Red Bull seems to be pretty cutthroat. Like, gone. Nick DeVries's home race was in 3 races. No, gone.
No.
That's
You're
what's
gone.
surprising to me is they've given Checo, I feel like, a longer leash than they have other drivers in that second seat, or even in the
Yeah.
other team, right? So I mean, I mean, he kind of has these ups and downs, and I feel like that's
Right.
not a real consistent way that Red Bull wants their second driver. So, in my opinion, I think they've given him some longer berth. But I think on the flip side, they have such a dominant driver in car that they don't need the second driver to be
They
as
don't.
dominant.
No.
So I
They
think
No.
that's
don't.
why if they
They
needed
don't.
him, they would have moved him a long ago. Let's just
Right.
probably take that off
Right.
the equation because it's not
Well,
Max
fair.
and
Verstappen is leading.
if Checo had no podiums, or not even like a top 4 or 5 finish this year, I think it'd be a different story. I think the fact
Right.
that he has performed
Two race
well,
wins this year.
two
Right.
wins, multiple podiums, like
Hmm.
that's kind of saving his bacon. Because the flip side of that in the Red Bull, universe is you're out of here, and he's got to know that. I mean, that's just got to be a super uncomfortable feeling, talk about job security. But
And what they're saying, like, Red Bull is, it's all PR, right? They're all saying, "Oh, we love Checo. Like, we just need, he just needs a little bit of help. Checo knows what's going on, And it's like, it's all PR. Like, behind the doors, they're like,
right,
we need to figure this out. Like, they're being all nice. Oh, we're committed to Checo. No, you're not. You're not committed to Nick DeVries, and he's a rookie. Technically, technically
right,
though, he's not a rookie. Like, he is a rookie to Formula One, but like, he's 28 years old.
right. And
He's
that
won
age
championships before.
is his age factors into that.
Yeah.
I think, he doesn't have the longer on ramp like a
Mm-mm.
Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, if you
Mm-mm.
consider how much older he is than Max, right?
Right.
They're like
Right.
they're always thinking about that future.
Hmm. Right.
And he just doesn't have as much time ahead of him. Speaking about time ahead of you, Alonso Alonso started out the season saying, and
What
Out of
happened?
nowhere.
I'm sporting my Aston Martin green today, but man,
What
Alonso,
happened?
what's going on?
Oh,
Come
my
on.
Ah,
boy.
man.
Oh, the dream was alive, and then it
Right.
bing.
Just
Oh my
faded.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wonder sometimes if some of these teams, they put in kind of all their chips on the table right up front and
Right.
don't
And then
don't
other teams
save
start
anything
going,
for upgrades in the
right.
middle, right? They
Right.
just
That's what I
like,
wondered.
let's just go full out. And I think that's maybe where Aston Martin is they played their full hand early on, and now teams like McLaren and Williams are going, hey, we found some upgrades, we
Right.
improved our aero, and they just have, and of course
Right.
the cost cap is going to affect all of
Oh,
that. If
totally.
they've already spent all that money, then they've got no more wiggle room.
You remember
Uh,
me mentioning though last week, or our pre-race, I talked about like here's the question is, yeah, or I remember mentioning, does Aston continue to push their funds for the development of this year's car in the detriment of next year's car, or have they like your point, did they spend it all and now
right.
they don't have anything left because they need it for next year's car
Hmm.
development? And
Hmm.
it seems like they probably, maybe the latter is, where they've spent it all and they don't have any more to really keep
Right.
So
developing,
interesting.
Right. Because
which is
we're seeing both Stroll and Alonso struggling. It's not
yeah.
just one of them. And so it definitely seems to be more car related than it is driver related. And which has got to be frustrating for a guy like Lawrence Stroll, who probably has all the money he can throw at it. He
Yeah, he
just
can't.
he just can't. His hands are
No.
tied. So hopefully we see a turnaround. I'd love to see at least a couple more Alonso podiums this year. And but it's been fun watching him race. uh but I think the mid-pack battles, a lot of the
Hmm.
passing,
That's getting so much fun.
it is, we're
It's
seeing
getting
like
Silverstone was
three and
incredible.
four car battles that are,
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
just good racing.
Did you
Hmm.
guys see the Williams pass, or
Hmm. The
Sainz get passed
Ferraris.
by? Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
it was crazy. And then who
Yep.
else passed him? It was like there's like one
He
turn where
passed
Sainz has
both
passed like three
Ferraris.
people. Okay, yeah,
So yeah, sign was passed by three people in the beginning, like first half of the race,
Right.
and then towards the end of the race, um, Albon passed both Ferraris towards the end of
That's
the race.
that's
which to
That
even
wild.
was
say
that was
that is
insane.
crazy,
That was
Right.
right?
insane.
Williams passed both Ferraris
It was,
4 years ago, 2 years ago. You
oh
would have
my
been like, no,
goodness.
that's crazy
Oh
talk.
my
That would never
goodness.
Even a
happen.
couple races ago, we probably wouldn't even have said that.
Yeah, and I
With
love
their
to see a legacy team like Williams performing
Oh,
well.
that's
It's
great.
it's
Oh, it's
so
so
good to
great.
see them. So it's
Yeah,
and
they
and
just
McLaren.
announced. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Well, both of the teams actually. So, uh, they were both using one-off liveries. Did you
Oh yeah,
guys
I
enjoy the liveries that they both came
Yeah,
out with?
yeah,
I
I
did.
thought the
I did.
chrome was gorgeous.
yes,
Could have used more chrome,
yeah.
but I thought the chrome was really good on the
Yep,
McLaren.
Kind
I
of makes
agree.
me
I agree.
wonder, what are they saving up for liveries for Las Vegas? Because
Oh,
So,
dude. Yeah.
it's gonna look
so
so under the lights.
Williams has already announced. They just announced yesterday that they're new. So they've been voting. They've had this whole voting thing going on for their liveries, and so there was like 8 different liveries that you could vote on over the last 2 weeks or so. And so they just announced the livery that they're using for the last three. So that's Vegas,
Oh, cool.
Vegas, and Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And so they have like a special one-off. It's not the livery I wanted. I wanted like a heritage. There was a heritage livery that was gorgeous, but it's a different one. It's cool, whatever. And then Red Bull right now is accepting votes for
Oh
their
yeah. Yeah.
That's
Austin
cool.
livery, and they
Okay.
have 2 different ones
Oh, yes.
so that were submitted.
Yes.
And so they have a livery with like stars and stripes kind of going on the side that
Uh-huh.
actually looks pretty good. And then they have
Uh-huh.
another one that's like lassos.
Right. Did you
Um
guys see the post with Verstappen and Ricardo with their cowboy hats on?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Red Bull posted that, and I'm like, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, not to keep coming back to Ricardo, but I will. Like,
he's the
and we've
talk of the
said this
town, talk of the
before,
town.
he in the American market, like
Yeah, he's king.
he
He's
is.
king.
The Americans
Yeah.
love him. He loves America. There's
Yep.
just
Mhm.
this relationship, and it's good business. It's just good business for Red Bull. So,
It is good business. I think they kind of like feel like Formula One, at least on TikTok where I was on, posted so much content on Daniel Ricciardo that it was like the last 12 posts are Daniel Ricciardo, Daniel Ricciardo, Daniel Ricciardo. And a little bit, I'm like, I feel like you guys could have treated Nick DeVries a little better. Like this dude's getting kicked out of his
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
all of a sudden. And I mean,
Yeah.
I just feel bad for him. I
Yeah.
don't
I mean,
know.
he's going to get picked up. And the thing is if he doesn't get picked up by another F1 team, he's going to end up, there's always like the German touring car. There's Le Mans series. So there's a lot. I mean, Formula E, which he's already raced in, right?
Or
Am I right?
he's won
Yeah,
twice.
he won that.
He's won the
So
championship twice. He's
So
not.
yeah, I mean, it's not like he's a rookie driver looking for a place to go. He'll get picked up
Mhm.
somewhere, and maybe it still will be F1. You never know what else silly season holds for us. So, uh,
Yeah. I
yeah,
honestly, I didn't expect Daniel Ricciardo to be the one to be placed there. I really thought it was going to be either Awasa or Lawson,
yeah.
Liam Lawson, who they're both, Red Bull drivers. They're both really, really good Red Bull drivers.
Do you think
Loss.
do you think Red Bull's just kind of throwing Daniel a bone, like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think,
hey, we see that you're
yeah,
kind of at the end and we want to give you at least half a season in a race car. Let's see how it goes. If it goes great, then more. Otherwise, this would be
maybe,
it.
maybe, but like they want, I think they know their car isn't good. So now they're like, if we put Daniel Ricciardo, let's see what we can do with this car. Because at the most, he'll score 15 points.
Right.
Maybe. That's pushing it
Yeah.
this year. Pushing it. He's not going to challenge for championships. They're not going to really win anything. Maybe they'll get bumped up to like eighth, but I really don't think that
Yeah.
I don't think they're
Yeah. We'll
doing this
see.
for
We'll see.
Ricardo. I think they're doing this so that they know.
Well,
I
I
don't know. I don't know where
I
their head's
think
at,
either
honestly.
way, we have Hungary this weekend, and viewership is probably going to be up because everyone is going to
Oh,
want to see
100%.
what the heck
100%.
happens.
100%.
And I mean, we've got some drivers. There's Ricardo, we've got Nico Hulkenberg, you've got
Hmm.
Kevin Magnussen, all drivers who were done
Hmm.
Alonso,
Alonso,
all
for sure.
done and came back.
Ocon.
And
Ocon.
Ocon is the same way. Though,
Hmm.
I mean, he's a younger driver, so I think
Sure.
that might have been a little premature there, back in the day for him. But um, well, we just lost Chad, but I wanted on the pod not we lost him on the podcast here. He had to drop off. We're gonna make our predictions, and here's what I'm gonna do. Chad's gonna let us know what his predictions are, and we'll make those available too and let you know. But Michael, what do you think? What do you think is gonna happen in Hungary?
Okay. So Hungary, Max is gonna win. Da-na-na-na-na. I think I think we're gonna see another Mercedes McLaren fight for the podium.
Okay.
I think the McLaren is so strong that
Yeah.
it's gonna come. It's gonna come fast.
Okay.
And then I also
So
predict that
go ahead.
so Max winning isn't really a prediction. So here's what I'll do. I'll say McLaren Mercedes podium. Daniel Ricciardo is not going to score any points.
Okay.
I want to say that. And then Williams will be back in the points again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
I
I
think there's strong running. Yeah.
I don't. Okay. So here's mine. Also, Max at the front.
Right.
Um,
Again, it's like a
I
given.
think I think we're gonna see Leclerc podium again. I think.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I think we'll see a Ferrari back up there again, and then McLaren. I think we'll have Lando in third on the
Lando.
podium. Um, I I think Alonso's going to improve this week, but I don't think he's going to get all the way
No.
back up to a top five finish. And I'm predicting that Ricardo finishes in the points this
Okay.
weekend in
All
Hungary.
right.
That's
All right.
that is my wishful, hopeful prediction
Oof.
for Hungary. So, well, hey, we want to thank you all for listening to the F1 starting grid. Um, and it's good to have you all. Let us know in the comments and let us know what your predictions are for this weekend or what your thoughts are about silly season, Red Bull, or whatever else is happening in F1.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the F1 Starting Grid podcast. We are so grateful for all of our listeners and everyone that tunes in when we post and when we have news. We love hanging out together, and we hope that you enjoy our podcast as well. Have a great day. Bye.
See y'all. Bye bye.